everyone, I'm Natalie, aka the Vegan Veteran. I haven't posted for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I was a bit unwell. It's kind of messed up my schedule a bit, but I'm back on track now, and I wanted to share some travel advice with you guys, things that I've found to be helpful over the years when I've been traveling as a vegan. So I've split these up into things to think about before you go, sort of in preparation, versus things to do when you're actually on holiday. So the first thing is, for me personally, I find I have to kind of say to myself before I go, oh, I'm probably not going to be as healthy as I would ideally like to be. And that's because I find that holidays as a vegan can be a bit more carb heavy than I would like. So again, obviously if you've got health considerations and things, then you have to stay on the wagon wherever you are. That's completely understandable. But if you're like me and you just need to give yourself a bit of a break on holiday, then be kind to yourself. Tip number 2, related to protein levels again, is to think about taking nuts with you. So nuts can be quite good as a way to sort of boost those protein levels, but also if you do find you end up somewhere where you just can't find any vegan food, then at least you have that as a backup, and they're obviously quite filling and things. So yeah, something to consider packing in your case. Tip number 3 is to consider taking refillable toiletry bottles. In most places I've been, I wouldn't have been able to find vegan toiletries. So this is a good way to take your toiletries with you. So I get these from Superdrug. I decant my products into them, and I can take them away with me. I usually still take like a full size sunscreen and shower gel, but for most other things this size will do. The other thing is that they're the right size for going through security. So if you just wanted to take toiletries in hand luggage, these would be okay. So yeah, and I'll do some upcoming episodes that go into a bit more detail on vegan toiletries and the different sort of logos and things, how you know whether toiletries are generally sort of vegan, cruelty-free, tested on free from animal testing, etc., because that can be a bit of a minefield, but we will come back to that. Then the other thing to think about both before you go and once you're there is tip number 4, which is consider excursions. So for me personally, I wouldn't want to, for example, go to a circus that had animal acts, or end up at a sea life centre or something like that. But even so, I have found that when I've been abroad, I've done excursions that on the face of it didn't sound like they'd involve animals, and then something crops up halfway through that personally I'm not completely comfortable with. So it's just a good idea to look into these things and think about what you are comfortable with, and whether that's something that you would genuinely enjoy, or whether it would kind of give you a bit of a funny feeling. Tip number 5 then is around thinking about low carbon travel. Again, this is kind of down to the individual and the sort of things that you're passionate about, but I know quite a lot of vegans are at least partially motivated to be vegan by climate change. And I do actually know individuals who will only travel in their country of origin, which I think is really admirable. And actually it does have a benefit that a lot of the other issues that I'm talking about in this video won't be relevant, because you're not going to have trouble finding products and making yourself understood. But for me personally, I still like to think about that when I'm actually abroad. So for example, recently I was traveling from Malaysia to Thailand, and I could have got a short haul flight, which would have been a couple of hours, but instead I decided to get the overnight sleeper train from Malaysia to Bangkok. And yeah, and actually that was a really cool experience, and it meant I got to see a lot more of the country, and yeah, was its own kind of adventure in itself, so something to think about. And then the next section of tips is things to consider for when you're actually away. So tip number 6 is to fill up at breakfast. A breakfast buffet is kind of a vegan's best friend when you're on holiday, because at the very least you know you're going to be able to have toast and jam. If you've got peanut butter as an option, again, that's a good way to get your protein levels up. And if you fill up on breakfast, then at least, you know, later in the day, if you do find you can't find anything vegan for lunch, for example, well, then it's not the end of the world, particularly if you've got some snacks with you and things. Tip number 8 is to look into veggie restaurants. So a lot of the tips that I'm giving in this video are worst case scenario, and actually I've eaten in some amazing veggie and vegan restaurants in Paris, Bangkok, Berlin. So, you know, as long as you're traveling with people that are willing to go to those kind of places with you, which hopefully your friends would be, you know, you can make use of those restaurants and use it again as an opportunity to get your protein levels up and things. I think the best place I've been for vegan restaurants actually is Berlin. It was absolutely amazing. I had some of the best vegan food I've ever had in Berlin. So yeah, again, a lot of the tips I'm talking about here are worst case scenario. So please do comment if you've got some other tips for locations where you've been that have been really good for vegan food. I'm sure people would appreciate that. And finally, tip number 8 is to think about what things are cooked in. So again, this can be a little bit tricky, particularly if there's a language barrier. But you might think that something's vegetarian or vegan, but it's not necessarily. So the classics are, you know, fish sauce in Thai dishes and ghee in curries and things. So it's a really good idea to double check if you can make yourself understood. If you're struggling and you can't make yourself understood, then, you know, that's really your call, and you just have to think about what's right for you. So that's my 8 tips for travelling abroad as a vegan. Please let me know what you think. Please comment, share, subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to see in upcoming videos. I know a few people have mentioned the vegan cheese night. I am gathering cheeses for that. It's going to take a little bit of time because I want to make sure that I get a selection of vegan cheeses from each of the supermarkets so that you're seeing a variety of things. But yeah, in the meantime, if there's anything else you'd like to see, please let me know. Thanks for watching.